Dave Gordon, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Pilaf. Great to see you.
It's great to catch back up. You're one of those, you seem to be one of those characters in the class that a lot of people know. That's what your howitzer even spoke to how active you were as a cadet. So,
As a character. Okay.
yes, you're one of those class characters. So tell us where you are now and what you're up to.
Yeah, so I'm in Houston, Texas. I've been here for 25 years. It's not my sort of native stomping grounds. I'm originally from Canada, but been here 25 years. Married a Houston girl, and I guess I'm here to stay. It's kind of difficult to uproot at this point. So there's where I am. I'm with Goldman Sachs. I've been here for a couple of years, but been in the financial services industry since '94.
In Houston for 25 years in financial services.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And since you've married a local girl, it's likely you're going to be somewhat tied to the area for.
Yeah, she's an Aggie, so Aggies kind of get West Pointers, and West Pointers get Aggies. And I met her actually. We were doing our MBAs at the same time at University of Texas in Austin, and I was a year ahead of her, and I was actually running orientation for the incoming class, which was an excellent way to, meet people. And she was impressed with me. She thought, I had a clipboard and I had a walkie-talkie, and I really seemed to know what was going on. And
you gave a heck of a speech.
Gave a heck of a speech, and for about a week, she was pretty impressed. And then she caught on at some point, and she said,
"And by that time, the hook was in."
Yeah, the hook was in. She said, "You don't really know what you're talking about half the time, do you?" I said, "No, but I sound convincing."
Right. I am a West Pointer. I can certainly carry it off.
That's exactly right.
So getting the MBA there and in finance. So was certainly, matters finance something always interesting you? Like when you were a kid, when you were studying accounting and things?
No. The funny thing is, the only thing even remotely finance related that I took at West Point was, of course, the basic economics. That one semester of economics, and I was in there with a number of my company mates, which was great. Chris Townley, who was a star man, was in the class, constantly falling asleep. I mean, forever just taking notes and erasing. Of course, he aced the course. I had Mark Von Herringen and Rick Killian, who variously were roommates of mine in the class, and Greg Blazinski, a hockey player. Somehow a lot of guppies ended up in that class. And the fun fact about this, especially since I ended up in finance, it was the lowest passing grade I got on a final exam. I remember, you go down and to Thayer Hall and check by your social security number, and I confirmed that semester literally nobody got a lower passing grade than I did. So subsequently, I ended up in finance. It's
you had nowhere to go but up.
Nowhere to go but up. I mean, it wasn't going to get any worse than that. So after the Army, I worked for, I did 5 years. I was medically discharged for a knee injury. I worked for Johnson & Johnson in upstate New York in sales, and then wound up moving back to Toronto with a temporary help and staffing company. So I was selling staffing services, and I was trying to call on these brokerage firms, which is a really easy thing to do in Toronto because they're all on the four corners of one intersection. It was easy thing. But I didn't speak the language. And so I thought, I got to figure out what these people are talking about. So the Canadian Securities course, which is like the equivalent of the Series 7, is open to the public. So I figured, well, I'll learn something. Let me take this course. And a few weeks in, I was like, man, I'm in the wrong business. And, the past 32 years have flown by. So
Right. Well, it just shows you what context and personal interest in it does for the ability to pick stuff up. So
and I never would have thought. I've loved it.
Well, the Canadian angle is interesting. So you're actually from Toronto.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Canada. My parents are Americans, so I've been a dual citizen from birth.
Interesting. Okay.
A few of my friends know, but most people won't. Apparently, there'd never been anyone at West Point as an American who'd never lived in the States. And so we had to kind of invent a process while I was applying. So I got nominated from Arizona, which is where my grandparents lived. I've never lived there, but as you know, it's stuck on your diploma. So my diploma says state of Arizona.
Well, there you go.
I apologize to all Arizonans who might have had to work harder.
Right.
to get in.
Slot I took
Yeah, that's
out
right.
of Canada, right? Yeah, that's great. So, uh, so what got you interested in West Point,
You know,
living in Toronto?
it's that's it's an interesting question. I had wanted to be a soldier since I was about 12. And I, read a
Really?
lot of history as a kid, read a lot of military history, read a lot about Vietnam, read a lot about World War II. And at some point, kind of realized I probably ought to be a soldier.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, I realized I ought to be an officer, and an American officer at that. So, I just had to sort of find a way in. I remember at age, I think 16, flying up to Ottawa on my own, capital of Canada, to meet with the defense attaché at the U.S. Embassy. And he happened to be a grad. And he said, well, here's a catalog, look through it, see what you think, and then go for a visit, go down and visit.
No
Um,
kidding.
and so I did. And it was interesting at that point. I thought no military history really in my family, but my uncle who lived in Connecticut said, "Yeah, I'll drive you to West Point. That'll be fun." And on the drive, he told me he'd been an officer, had gone through ROTC at MIT, and been in the Army. And that was like some family secret that never
No
never got
kidding.
told. And it wasn't like MI or anything. I think he was a Signal Corps guy,
Yeah, right.
but it wasn't on the family radar.
So, as a dual citizen, was it even in the possibility set of doing it in Canada as a
Yeah,
Canadian?
there was, but I mean, the Canadian, it's kind of hard to describe, having
Yeah.
never lived in the States until our day. But I just always felt like if you wanted to do something in the world, U.S. Army was a place to do it, and
Yeah, fair
you
enough.
could make a difference. And
So there was you were very focused on that.
yeah, very focused, and also inexplicably proud of my Canadian or my American background, even though I hadn't absorbed any of it other than from my parents growing up. I just felt like an American. So
Yeah,
yeah.
fascinating. And so, but I mean, coming into our day is was there anything unique about coming to our day that you noticed that we didn't? I mean, was there anything
Oh
that
yeah, I
surprised
mean,
you?
well, a couple small details. The little welcome packet that comes that tells you to have a haircut when you arrive didn't arrive because of delays in the mail getting north of the border. So I figured, well,
They're gonna cut my
they're gonna
hair.
cut it just like they want. And so I showed up looking like a hippie. I mean, I had very long
We're
hair.
one of those guys.
I was one of those guys. My mother actually had bought a book, like some West Point coffee table book, and there's
Right.
an our day picture of me and some of our classmates, and my hair is long, and I got glasses on, and upper class being funny, they just kept delaying the haircut until literally like 30 minutes before the
It was
march.
too much fun to have you
Too much fun. Everybody
looking like that than to get it cut.
but it was that
That's
was
great.
that was fun. But what interested me, what I found really amazing about being immersed in a group of American kids, which I'd never done, is just how, especially then in the 80s, how confident Americans were, how
Mhm.
confident about the future. I'm not talking about like self-confidence,
Yeah,
braggadocio,
right.
but just this is the Reagan years, and things were turning around, and American kids just seemed so much more uh, hopeful than their Canadian counterparts. I'd go back home, and growing up in Canada was weird because the Canadian dream is like to work for one of the big banks and actually to live at home with your parents until you get married. And that's like, and to go to college close to home. Like the Canadian dream was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
weird. And so I found it, really thrilling. I never felt qualified to be there. I always felt in awe of West Point, and I think that just kept me going. I was like, man, I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess it's something similar to you in markets. There's sentiment. There's just like a
Yeah,
sentiment that everybody had that things
man.
were looking up, and the U.S. was kind of
Yeah,
rolling again. Was the feeling at the time? I remember that specifically being
yeah,
discussed in the interview for the nomination.
yeah. And the
Somehow it
military was
came
getting
up. But
money
what is the
again.
impact of President Reagan's new approach? It
Yep.
was a strange kind of alleyway that the conversation went down.
Yeah.
and they asked me what I thought of it as a 17-year-old kid,
Yeah.
and I gave some silly answer, but it got me in. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's
yeah,
how it is.
or it got me through that gate. That's great. And so the military itself. So you read history as a kid. You were interested in that. How about the military action itself? Did it feel good, or were you?
Yeah. No, I always felt like, I mean, the stuff you get to do in the military when you're young is just fantastic. Whether it's flying along in a helicopter, or shooting stuff and blowing stuff up, running around, being wet and cold. It's all really exciting. I've never regretted it. It was the only West Point was the only school I applied to, and Plan B was wait a year and try again.
Yeah, right.
That was Plan B. So it was really all I wanted to do. I can tell you, when I remember having a conversation at the dinner table with my parents when I rode away for info. I think this was before I flew up to Ottawa, because I got the info. I'm like, how the hell am I going to do this? I don't even live in the state. How do I get a nomination?
Right.
So I mentioned at the dinner table that I'd written away to West Point. When my father literally dropped his fork mid-bite, mouth open, and said, I didn't raise my son to be a soldier.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't talk to me for 3 days.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Did not speak to me. And that only sort of steeled my resolve. And I think my mother, gleefully said, let's do this thing,
Right.
But
that whole reverse psychology thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, it totally failed. So anyway, it's the only place I wanted to go. And I still remember, this is going to be like really hokey, but I remember getting on the bus after my last term end exam, first semester plebe year. Cold, wintry. It's December 18th. I'm going to go to LaGuardia Airport and fly home. And you remember they have those buses arranged along the road that's now filled in behind the plane, but they would like stack up buses. You arrange your bus, you get your stuff. You're in dress gray, and I look out the window, and it's there's snow on the field, and it's cold, and all I can think is, I can't believe this is 1/8 over. Like it went by like that, and that's the weirdest feeling to have after Beast and the first semester of plebe year, and it sucks, and you never can quite get anything done right. And I thought, man, that went by fast.
Yeah.
And anyway, never regretted being there.
It does, yeah, absolutely. It's our memories of it extended back out.
Yeah,
but at the time we flew through the thing, right?
Yeah,
if you think about it. I remember having a similar moment at first year, just saying, I can't believe I'm not going to be a cadet soon. Not, like that famous Robert Redford show or a movie where he gets the candidate, where he gets elected and says, now what?
No, that's
you make it out. You're like, oh.
I finally got this figured out. And now I got to head out into the world.
And I don't have, which company were you in as a plebe? I should have that.
I was in C1.
C1.
Charlie 1. Everybody else was Country Club 1, but I mean, I thought it was difficult. I had a couple of roommates first semester. Chris Clark, who graduated with us, and then Francisco Aguilar, who did not, who was a basketball player and struggled academically. But I think they used to get really ticked off that I would go to bed first. I just got my homework done
first.
That
guy.
Yeah, I was that guy.
We just took it off the list, right?
Yeah.
You were the bed first guy.
Well, I had a good first semester, and then it got harder. But I had one of those top bunks, and they just get together or lie down. We hadn't gotten our green girls yet, because that was after first semester. So I had one of those scratchy green army blankets, and I kept waking up in the middle of the night with like toothpaste on my legs, and I would be woken up by the minty smell. I'm like, man, it smells minty. And they used to like to.
What were they doing?
Toothpaste on my legs while I was asleep, and see how long it took me to wake up. God, it's funny to think about it. And it was always a minty smell that woke me up. But there was one time I just
now that might be one of the weirder things I've heard.
It's weird. It was very creative. I don't know
All right,
whose idea that was, but there was one morning when, they actually reset my alarm. And so it got up, and I hopped up, and I went to the bathroom, and I did all my stuff, and I came back, and I'm like, guys, come on, you got to get dressed. And they went sort of through the motions, and I headed out into
Are you kidding?
New South area, and I was all alone. And it was like 2:00 in the morning,
Right.
and I had seen that it was 2:00 in the morning in the halls in the hall clocks. But
you were just moving, so you didn't have time to
I saw it. I'm like, man, this is like the best Navy prank I've ever seen. Clearly, this is some kind of spirit prank. And come on, guys, let's go. And I must have stood out there for about 10 minutes. My first thought
you stood out there just at the
I can't believe I made it first to formation. If I'm not getting whatever the opposite of a 4C is, I'm getting that. This is I'm getting big bite. And I stood there. I'm like, man, does nobody have an alarm? Finally, I've did a perfect about face and went back along the walls and doing my corners. And of course,
if we had a camera of that.
They were laughing. They're just sitting there. How long is this clown going to stay out there?
Oh, that's fantastic. We had a pretty jokey room, but nobody ever played pranks like that.
Well,
there's a certain level of cruelty to that.
Well, I mean, in retrospect, I must have been, kind of a jerk or something.
Well, they were up too, so they were enjoying the prank.
They were enjoying it. Yeah, it was good for a laugh.
So they got up and pretended that they were getting ready.
Yeah, I do remember it. Now I can finally get back at Chris Clark. I don't know if he'll watch this, but he had gone to like a military high school, really strict. I think it was in Iowa, called like the Shattuck School or something. He was a big deal, and he was head of their silent drill team. Like, he was pretty squared away. Man, that guy could polish some shoes. So sometime mid first semester, we have this big inspection. He was working on his shoes, had a special pair of shoes that he'd never worn. And man, they were like glass. I still have a picture in my house of me and Chris Clark and Francisco Aguilar all standing there like this, and he's holding up his shoes. And I think one of the yearlings in our company took it, and they were unbelievable. And the first time he wore them was for that inspection, and he takes like 3 steps, and they start cracking, they start shattering. He hadn't ever bent them like that. So he actually, poor kid, ended up with like the worst shoes on his
shoes.
People came out like, what the hell happened to your shoes? I mean,
you gotta wear them.
I mean, they were like glass that blew apart. Poor guys. But
wow,
anyway.
It might have also been that you had a little toothpaste you put on them.
I didn't mess up his shoes.
And so then you did the big swap to G4, the Guppies. So
which was great. We were
famous names in that company.
Yeah, it was a big change. It was a lot of fun though. Over there, complete other side of the cadet area, living in those divisions, including in the haunted division. One of our I think our first TAC officer for yearling year, and then we traded out for the next couple of years, had actually been living he was in G4 as a cadet, and had lived in the barracks, and was a roommate of someone involved in the Ghost. Actually, wait a minute. Yes, he was. He was involved in there was like a big article in Time back in the 70s about
there was a ghost in the G4 barracks.
Yeah, and it was it's kind of weird. They subsequently, nobody lived in that room. And the room where this ghost had appeared and freaked someone out, and I don't know.
Is that right?
We turned it into our study.
I probably heard that in the past, but you're reminding me. Okay.
Yeah. So it was in our study room, and I will never forget coming back from like Sunday brunch, and Jim Buck in our company, who's gone on to huge success. Jim Buck was CCQ, and he was totally freaked out, because he said at some point when nobody was around, it seemed like everyone was asleep, his gray jacket that he put on top of the wall locker in the CQ room had flown across the room, and the wall locker had started vibrating, but there was no one in there. And so, it was a haunted.
These kinds of things. Had they converted that room into a study room, you said?
Yeah, they made it a study room so that no one would have to sleep in it and be woken up by the ghost. But no one wanted to study there either.
Right.
Academics.
Unless was the ghost good at any of the subjects? Because that might have helped.
Nobody bothered to ask. You could have helped me with the electrical engineering.
Out with the old economics.
Economics, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the imagination adding to that doesn't help, especially when you're kind of deprived of sleep and you're in an all gray area.
Yeah. That's right.
The ghost in G4.
Could have just been sleep deprived. But.
Now you were in divisions, so you lived a very different life than some of us because you all had your own kind of little society in each division, right?
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, a floor only had 4 rooms on it, and then if you go down to the next floor. But I mean, a couple semesters I lived up on the 5th floor, and that was a lot of stairs, and that was before you had anything to count your steps, so you couldn't get any credit for going up and down.
Yeah, no credit.
Right.
So they didn't actually occur because you didn't count them with a watch. Was there a protocol? Because some companies put the upperclassmen on the top because it was kind of like a suite. Other companies said the upperclassmen on the bottom, so they have to climb the stairs. How did you guys approach it?
Yeah, we mixed. We mixed and mingled. I think, again, I lived, I don't think I ever lived on the 5th floor as a firstie. Firsties typically got lower down, but cows, you're angry enough as a cow. You've already made the commitment. You can't get out now. And so they like to put cows up high. Just to ride.
Now you've locked yourself in, climb.
Yeah, that's right. It was, but it was fun. I mean, especially the top floor, the ceilings were like, I don't know, 14-foot ceilings or something.
Yeah, right.
Not that we knew what to do with that space, but if you'd had the ability to like build a loft or something, you almost could have done that. It was a great experience.
Certainly notorious for hiding things. So your howitzer mentions it that you were quite active in a lot of extracurricular activities. So talk us through all the stuff you got involved in and kind of where your head was with that.
Well, so first semester of yearling year, I lived with Rick Killian. Rick and I met during Buckner and really hit it off. And we decided to like join everything. We joined the mountaineering club. We joined the horse, equestrian club. We joined all kinds of other stuff because we thought this is a great way to like do something on those non-parade afternoons, non-athletic afternoons.
Yeah.
Hardly attended anything. I think I even had a fencing mask on my thing. I joined the fencing club, never fenced. I joined the equestrian club, took a ride out there to the stables and learned I was going to brush horses for the first year. I said, yeah, whatever. So I got pretty good at quitting stuff. I really just didn't go to any of those things.
Good skill too.
Yeah, but I did get involved. It's important to learn to weasel out of things. So I did get involved in SCUSA junior year, mostly just to have something to do. I was not, I didn't have any electives in social sciences. Yeah. No social science electives, but I must have worked hard enough that the OIC noticed me and asked me to be president or chairman, whatever they call it, first year. So I did that. And that was it was a great way to do things. I got to meet Al Haig, who was our keynote speaker.
Yeah.
The Al Haig, you would have thought might have had some kind of a sense of humor, and he did not. So,
I don't think that he was actually thought he had a sense of humor. Right? I think he's pretty clear that he was not a guy that
he was
long on quips and
hands on hips. I'm in charge when reading gunshots. So he's going to kick off SCUSA. All the cadets, all the participants are sitting there in South Odd, Thayer Hall, and I'm waiting outside with a photographer, and he comes in with the soup, and it's just the 4 of us, and I introduce myself. He says, "Mr. Gordon, where are you from?" I said, "Well, sir, I'm from Toronto, Canada." And we're walking over to get our picture taken against some kind of backdrop, and he says, "Canada? Well, how'd you get to West Point from Canada?" You can see this coming. I said, "Well, sir, I drove." And the look on his face in that picture, you can go to your howitzer, to the SCUSA page, and I think you'll see the picture of me with with Al Haig.
The look on his face reflects
He looks
how that.
furious, and I look terrified. And like, so don't joke with Al Haig.
You know, he's a guy who thinks take seats is an icebreaker. But you tracked into history. You were on the HPA side for your studies.
Yeah, and I love that. And I still am a big history guy. So I read a lot of history, military history, especially. I love that. So I did humanities interdisciplinary, which is 4 things. It's philosophy, military history, foreign languages, and literature. And so I actually did a philosophy senior thesis, one of 2 people in our class to do a philosophy senior thesis. And it turns out you can't really get a job as a philosopher. So that wasn't great, but
hard to, for sure.
Yeah, but I will remember there. I think the other guy in our class who did it a semester ahead of me, Kevin Foster. And so my advisor said, "Hey, look, you're defending your second semester. He's defending his thesis first semester. Why don't we go and observe? That way we're prepared. When our turn comes." I thought that's fantastic. And so I went, and Kevin had a tough defense. I mean, it was a tough committee. It was a bunch of colonels and lieutenant colonels. John Calabro is a very scary guy in the English department who was on the panel. And I will never forget John or Colonel Calabro asking Kevin a question, and Kevin gave quite a detailed answer, but I think he was nervous giving it. Anyway, it was a long answer, and at the end, and Calabro was motionless throughout. And at the end of Kevin's answer, Calabro says, "Mr. Foster, that's an interesting technique, but I have not forgotten my original question." And Major Tip and my advisor and I look at each other like, "Holy crap! How do we prepare for that?" So when my turn came the next semester, I got one of those Calabro questions, and it was a total gotcha. It was like, why didn't you discuss John Stuart Mill's view on this whole thing? And again, thank God for Kevin. I owe Kevin a big, because I realized a nice crisp answer would do better.
Right on point. Just get to it, right?
Well, sir, within the constraints of 4,000 words, I couldn't include everything I wanted to, so I had to make some cuts. Now, that was complete BS. I'd never considered, I didn't.
Yeah.
Had I tried to answer the question any other way, I was doomed.
But you answered the original question, which taken from your earlier experience.
It's on the cutting room floor. And we moved on.
Who says that SCUSA didn't help you out? Wait, I think there were a lot of us who were members of SCUSA, like you were a member of the equestrian team.
Yeah.
Notional members. I think I have it on my profile as well. What was the you were deep in, if obviously. What was the totality of SCUSA, and what were we all members of?
Well, I don't know. I
stuck up my own history here.
I think I licked every single envelope that went out, invitation envelope that went out. I did a lot of envelope stuffing late at night, a lot of envelope licking, and that might explain a few things. I don't know.
Okay. That was why I was a little thin on attendance, because I knew the first year was just envelope licking.
Yeah, it really was. But I mean, it was fun. I got to go around and pretend I knew what I was talking about, even though even as a senior, I wasn't taking any Social Security electives. I did get an invite back to teach Soc, which was great, but I got medically discharged. I injured my knee. Medical career was over, or not medical career. Army career was over. So never returned to teach, but it obviously got me at least an offer.
Yeah. So you were a man of words, a man of action, out doing stuff, doing things in the extracurricular realm. Why infantry? It's just always what I wanted to do. I thought infantry would be meaningful. I thought it would be I like camping as a kid. Like I like being out there in the woods. Didn't mind being wet. Didn't mind sleeping on the ground. Didn't have good enough eyes to fly, so infantry made sense, and I had a great time. I went to the 10th Mountain Division. You did,
yeah. So ours was the first class that got to pick 10th Mountain, and I was, one of my best moments was being the first infantry officer to 10th Mountain. So I got
Is
a
that
little,
right? So you were ranked well. You know, you were ranked high
well
enough
enough,
to be the first one.
not well enough to pick Vicenza or any place better than Fort
Yeah.
Drum. Let's be honest, Fort Drum was a hellhole when I went there. I mean,
Well,
it had not been built out. It was very very new. You know, I was stuck in the BOQ, which I got a 10 by 10 foot room in an old World War II wooden building. I couldn't even step over all my equipment. It was on the ground. I had to like jump from my door to the bed. I thought this sucks. So I went
our
out
colleagues who went to the National Training Center had a similar building. I remember visiting some and seeing how they lived, and I know exactly of what you speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you're there for 2 weeks. It's another if you're contemplating 4
Our
years.
rooms at West Point were bigger.
That's right.
Right?
Yes, they were. So Chuck Cavan was up there, another classmate of ours, and he and I had gotten a statement of non-availability or whatever, and got a 2-bedroom townhouse off post. And I was only there alone for about a month, and then he's like, "Look, let me take the other bedroom. We'll split the rent."
Yeah,
that was great. I mean, Chuck and I had known each other briefly as cadets when I floated to his table year, and I can say this now because he and I are among the best of friends. But he was like, "Don't talk to my plebes." Like, what are you talking about? I'm your classmate. You know, like I'm not
You're
another plebe
plebe.
at the table. Oh yeah, he was like, "Don't talk."
You're a yearling.
Yeah. So we didn't really get along as cadets, and then we got up to Fort Drum and started living together, and we just had the best time. I mean,
That's
we
great.
just we were both on brigade staff to start. It was still forming as a division, and so we would carpool together.
Yeah.
And see each other, walk over to the get lunch at the PX, and then at night we come home, we'd probably stop at Arby's and get something to eat and sit there on the kitchen counter drinking beer and eating Arby's and laughing our asses off until suddenly it's like, well, it's 10 o'clock. I guess it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
It was great. And so by an incredible coincidence, he actually also lives in Houston. So he ended up here.
Okay, good for you guys.
Completely separate circumstances from me, but we see each other, pretty often. And
That's how fortunate that is. That's great. What we will return to Fort Drum in a moment, but are there a lot of classmates in Houston? What's the scene like in Houston?
I think Matt Buckner is here.
Okay.
And Matt Buckner had been a general's aide to Jack Keene, who was my brigade commander when I first got up to Fort Drum. And Keene was, Keene's on TV a lot. He was a scary guy as a colonel. I don't think he ever smiles. And but those are the three in the Houston area that I know. And I stay in touch with Rick Killian, who's in North Carolina. Rick, finished up at.
Well, we'll see if we can figure out who else is in Houston, because sometimes there's folks in the area you don't even know about. So back to Fort Drum. So infantry officer, did you enjoy after all that kind of thought about it ahead of time? Did you enjoy the activities of being a platoon leader and all the rest?
I did. I mean, it was a great division, great fledgling, division. Everything we were doing for the first time. Still initially living out of World War II buildings. It was a cohort division, so you'd get a few officers and a few NCOs together, and suddenly you get like 450 privates and try and make a go of it. But it was great. I mean, it was really, really fun to build something. And back then, it wasn't actually considered deployable. I mean, we didn't go to the first Gulf War, and there was a lot of talk about shutting down the 10th Mountain Division. And then basically, once I got out of the way, it's been deployed everywhere. So I got them fully trained and ready to go. And
I think in the division history, you're still your name's still in there as the one who spun them up.
Well, I mean, because I wrecked my knee and was in the medical discharge process takes so long. By the time I left, which was a month before our commitment was up, I'd been there longer than any other officer in the division. Like,
no kidding. And how'd the knee go? What happened there?
Well, that's another good thing. I mean, it started out. It actually, I think, was sensitized in plebe wrestling. So
Okay.
doing that plebe wrestling. One time we stood up at the end, everyone, check yourself off. Does everything look normal? And I had this cone forming on one of my knees underneath the skin. And they said, no, go back. So I had to do physical therapy. I'd pop the bursa. They said, someday this is going to come back and haunt you. And it came back to haunt me about a week into my job as a rifle company XO. And we went down to Fort Pickett, Virginia. We didn't have our own urban warfare site. So we went down there to do our MOUT training, and I'm a brand new XO, and I walking around watching, our troops train, and I come along a fire team trying to lob a grappling hook into a 2.5 story up window. And it's just bouncing off the house and everything. And so, because karma is the way it is, I walked up and I said, let me show you how it's done. So I lobbed that thing in beautifully. It went right in the window. The person in there hooked it up, and I started climbing up the outside. And as I'm cresting the windowsill, I slipped, and I fell straight down and landed on my feet and on my butt. And the young, E5 in charge of the group said, "Is that how it's done, sir?" I'm like, but I mean, what I didn't know is I scraped the cartilage out of the underside of my knee. And so from then on, anytime I did a road march or a run, I'd be limping for days afterwards.
Yeah. So it was a cumulative thing, because even between the wrestling and that, you were probably doing additional damage.
Yeah, and I landed on both knees, but it was the right was the one that popped the bursa as a cadet, and it's the right that I got discharged for. So clearly, that was more vulnerable than the other one. But I got out at 5 years. I got up
right at 5. So you did your 5.
Yeah. I was going to say no reserve obligation after that.
Yeah. So there you are at the end of 5. You've done your bit. You get the need to now nurse along. Where was your head then, and what was the thinking?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I'd planned to make the military a career. I'd never really thought about anything else. I worked through Cameron Brooks, which was this recruiter of junior military officers, and ended up with Johnson & Johnson, which was great. They did a whole career conference and training, and so I ended up with Johnson & Johnson selling suture and endoscopic surgery stuff in Buffalo, which was great training. But I didn't want to be in Buffalo the rest of my life, and couldn't really move back to Toronto in the healthcare industry because socialized medicine in Canada makes it really not. It's just a completely different model up there.
So how did you find sales? So you went from platoon leader, you were XO, you longest serving officer in the 10th Mountain, and then suddenly you were a salesperson in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean,
what was that like to make that change?
Honestly, all I've done since leaving the Army is sales. It's all I've done.
Okay.
So all my, whether it was temporary help or staffing, services or suture or finance, it's all been sales. I have to tell you, I'm getting a little tired of it. I love telling the stories. Like I enjoy that. I like seeing people, learn stuff. But there's a lot of a grind in sales.
That's a big part of it.
I didn't enjoy that. I went to become a financial advisor, and I did that for 4.5 years. And I hated prospecting. I loved running people's money, but I hated, prospecting for clients. I thought, I'm never gonna make ends meet doing this, and that's what got me down to do my MBA. And from then on, I've gotten to see whole different parts of the industry that I wouldn't have gotten exposure to otherwise, and I enjoy it. Spent
but you did well in sales. It was just that you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, well, and really well at presenting. So I actually spent 5 years as a national speaker for Eaton Vance, which was one of my previous employers, and that was great. Going around and being on stage, blown into town, getting the applause, and heading out. It was a lot of fun. And I still
quite SCUSA-like, I think.
Yeah. So exactly. Get the applause. Just don't make the smart remark to Al Haig, and everything will be okay.
We do learn our lessons.
Yeah. Well,
answer the original question, and don't talk about driving from Canada.
That's right.
Who does a national speaker speak to? What audiences are you talking to?
Advisors. So I've been sort of in a what you might call a wholesale role for quite a while, wholesaler role. So I speak to advisors. I occasionally speak to end clients, so I have to maintain all my licenses and things, but I'm mostly speaking to advisors, trying to get advisors to use products that my employer manages, whether that employer was, Eaton Vance for 15 years or now Goldman Sachs for 2.
So when you give a speech, are you talking about another topic and you're kind of embedding your products in it, or you're not just getting up and saying, use our products? You're saying, here's a success is about X, Y, and Z, and this is how our products support that, or like
that's it. So I developed some original content at Eaton Vance around taxes, the content that's still in use around taxes and around equity award compensation, and how to help advisors who are receiving these awards. How to help clients who are receiving these awards figure out what to do with them. I speak along similar topics at Goldman Sachs. So I developed some content around concentrated stock and how to manage the risk of concentrated stock. Sometimes using our products, sometimes not. But that it's all tends to be very educational. I've been involved in something known as direct indexing for 20 years, and I absolutely love it. That's owning, basically a portfolio that replicates the index with individual stocks, which allows you to have certain tax advantages. And once I figure out a story, I'm usually able to explain it to advisors in words that they can use with their own clients. And ultimately, that's really the goal, is helping advisors feel smart about something that, is just one of many products that are coming down the pipe at them. They're drinking from a fire hose every day. And if you can help them help simplify a particular product and figure out how to help clients understand it, then you're helping the sale.
So what changes in the financial world were you kind of astride as technology came? And because when you started, we were all cell phones. We were driving around in cars, and stock.
When I started, prices were quoted in an eighth of a dollar. It was, you could do things, get 100 shares at 3/8 or whatever. And like, what is that? So I've seen everything go from really, really simple, going through a reverse phone directory that was a hard copy book and trying to find numbers in a particular community and calling them up and seeing if they wanted some financial advice, all the way to today. I've been fortunate enough to go higher and higher and higher over time in the kind of wealth space, so that now I'm kind of in the high net worth and ultra high net worth space, and which is interesting because there's more available to you. But the changes are just tremendous. Information moves very quickly. You're almost crazy to try and do individual stock research anymore. The fee compression keeps creating newer, simpler tools that cost less. But as a result, advisors have just massive practices now. They're constantly trying to add clients, because if they don't scale their business, their own income will decline. So it's a rapidly changing business now. AI is adds
a whole new layer to it, right?
As a whole, like at Goldman Sachs, 13,000 of our 45,000 employees are software engineers. It's astonishing. It's the largest group in the company. So tech is changing everything. Probably just in time for me to retire, but I can't yet. My wife and I are kind of late bloomers. We've been together now 26 years, but we took forever to get married. And so I have a 5-year-old son, and we will welcome a daughter at the end of August. You
will welcome a daughter at the end of August.
Yes.
Okay.
So I will not be retiring anytime soon.
You certainly won't be slowing down.
Certainly won't be slowing down. No. I do a lot of stairs. I'm getting up and down off the ground a lot.
Yeah. That's amazing. Amazing. And so the 5-year-old, how do you all manage? Like, how do you think about that? I think about the energy when I had a 5-year-old, and there's two things. Your energy was much higher, but your self-confidence and self-settledness, for lack of a better word, was lower.
Well,
'Cause you were
fortunately,
dealing with your own, like, I've got to get ahead in life. But now the self-settledness is very, very high. But then the
yeah,
energy to deal with a 5-year-old.
I mean, I'm 62, but I've got the maturity of a 40-year-old.
Well, there you
So that helps.
That helps.
Is, I feel younger. I still, like an idiot. I mean, I still see someone much younger when I look in the mirror. And
Yeah.
I waited so long to have him, and it was a hard road. Lots of setbacks, but he's great. He's a great kid. You know, I miss him when I travel. Love being with him. Love doing things with him. Can't wait to have a little girl. So
Yeah. Good for you.
we're spoiled.
Good
Yeah.
for you. What, so what kind of activities do you think? Well, you're not, five is still on the front end of the
Yeah,
family
he
activity
rides his
stuff.
bike now, so we do some bike riding, which is really hot in
Yeah.
Houston. But he's loves riding his bike. We've tried soccer. He's got his dad's athletic ability, so not maybe not a soccer player.
My poor son is afflicted with the same problem.
You know,
I tell him it's not his fault.
yeah. Well, I'd love to get him running. I mean, I used to be able to run. I
Yeah.
did intramural track, but was on the brigade championship team
Right.
for 2 different companies, which was great. So I don't know if I was the common link or not.
Well, you were at the 10th
That's
mountain.
almost-
You were the link that elevated that out.
just do the
We'll
math.
just
How-
give it to you.
Right. Whenever I'm on the track team, we win. So it was
Just keep him away from wrestling. Apparently, that's the only weak spot of the old Gordon genes. Oh
He-
goodness.
he told me I don't know, a few months ago. He said, "Daddy, I don't think I want to be a cook." I said, "Why is that?" I said, "Well, they have to stand a lot." And then subsequently, he likes me to tell him stories about various military injuries. And then he said, "I don't think I want to be in the Army because you get hurt a lot." I said, that's fine.
He's building. He's building discernment.
He's building discernment, and he doesn't want to be like Daddy, I guess.
Well, that goes on for a while.
Well, yeah,
Maybe 30 years or so.
I'm not going to let it. By the time it really bothers me, I'll be senile. So
Yeah, right. At that point.
yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
so this national speaker
Yeah.
is a through line. I mean, because it sounds like you're still doing those kinds of activities.
Well,
when you're
I am.
traveling
So
and-
I'm back in more of a sales role. I left Eaton Vance and went to a financial technology company, which was really interesting because I had to learn the tech side, learn to supervise programmers and participate in sprints and learn a whole new language. But it was great. I mean, I learned a lot. Won some awards. Then got laid off because it's fintech. And found my way to Goldman Sachs, which is great. And so they had me build a team of separately managed account specialists around the country. And so I lead that team as a player coach, which means I have less time to do my day job,
Yeah.
which is sales. But I get to develop people, and I develop content, and I do some national speaking in that gig as well. And I enjoy that. I mean, it feels natural to me, and it never used to. I used to be nervous in front of a group. I didn't look nervous, but my knees always rattled inside my pants. And, and now it's I could roll out of bed and speak to a room of 1,000 and not really think much about it.
What's the largest group you've spoken to?
Largest group now, it was a Zoom, but I did have a Zoom before I left Eaton Vance with 7,000.
7,000 people
That was a big group.
listening to Dave Gordon speak.
Yeah. They were not all on screen, so it wasn't like an array of postage stamps, but still,
For a
it was
moment in time.
Yeah, a moment in time, and I still run into advisors. That was 4 years ago, and I still run into advisors who.
So if you think of a full brigade reviews, filling the plane, that's 4,000.
I didn't have to have the command voice. I didn't have to pop off.
So we'll say it's 3,500. Given the fact that some of the cadets are out running around, so 2 full brigades, and there you are holding forth.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
Advancing the slides.
Advancing slides. Next slide, right?
Yeah,
I love it.
and talking about tax. Can you believe it? I'm not an accountant.
You know what? The topic is irrelevant. You're holding spellbound 2
Yeah.
full sets of the Corps cadets. That's good enough for me. This is a new first for the podcast
Well,
in terms of achievements. I love it. That's great. 7,000.
Cool.
And what was the largest physical you've ever done?
largest physical probably about maybe 400. I mean, they're
400. That's a good group. Yeah.
Yeah,
The crowd fades to the back at that size.
yeah. I mean, you can't. But you still, can interact and make it personal. I did have, recently, because I was in the infantry, my hearing kind of sucks, so I've had to get hearing aids, and I'm not wearing them right now. But I have been at the front of a room with my hearing aids on, and it's funny because what you think is, I sound amazing. I mean, this,
Right.
like my command voice has never been better. And then you
Right.
see someone at the back of the room going, "Speak up, speak
Yeah,
up."
yeah, right.
Well, it's the hearing aids.
Well, I'm glad you don't have them on, because it won't be until after you see the recording of this what you actually realize what I'm saying, and you can have your outrage then.
I answer the questions I want to answer.
That's right. I'm here just waving my hands. Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
So, young family, Houston.
Yeah.
Wife's from Houston. You're gonna now. Your wife's 26 years. You said you've been together. How did you met at grad school?
Yeah, she was a year behind me, and she
That's right.
was a big deal in marketing. She worked for Coca-Cola, and
Yeah. So
was
does she have a lot of family in the area? So you got an extended
yeah,
family there?
all her family.
Okay,
is,
so
is close
you've got a nice network there in
Yeah, so,
Houston. It is.
mine's spread out. I still have my older brother lives in the Toronto area. My younger sister lives in the Boston area, and both my parents have passed.
Now, those of us who know Houston know that that's like saying L.A. It's a massive place. Which part of Houston you call home?
I'm in Bel Air, so
Okay.
I'm inside the loop,
Yeah.
and I'm in an area called Bel Air near the Galleria. And it's we've been in this house for 12 or since right after we married, so 12 years or so.
Well, that's a respectable place to live, inside the loop, the gallery.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So no retirement soon because you got a young family, but how do you think about that in terms of the number of years working and all that? This is not a trick question. It's just kind of where's your head on that?
I mean, like you do the math, and I'm now old enough to take Social Security if I didn't want to take the whole amount, and I could start taking out of my 401k. I'm going to work as long as I can because it's helpful to work. I enjoy work. I would like to move more into the kind of sage phase of my life, but
Yeah,
nobody else recognizes me as a sage, so that makes it.
that's the problem. We think we're sages. Other people just see us as out of date.
That's right. He's rambling again, but.
Right. But I'm a sage. Yeah, you were a sage back when the cell phones were this big. Yeah.
I can remember when we didn't have cell phones. You had to remember phone
Right.
numbers.
Yeah, you had to go to a payphone. Let me tell you what that was like. Well, that's not sage-like. That's just out of date.
Yeah, no. It's
Yeah, so you
exactly.
want to rely, you kind of fall back a little bit more on that. But the idea of speaking and sharing knowledge and these types of things still keeps you going. That's good.
Yeah, I like that. I've always wanted to write, not just technical or professional stuff. I mean, I've had a couple of professional articles published, but it's so what? It's not that interesting.
But if you enjoy it, right?
Yeah, I like writing. So I need to find a way to fit that into the whole, 2 young kids and a traveling sales job. But
Now, does your wife still works?
she,
Everything.
in one of those great gifts that the universe gives you, she was the group director for Minute Maid, which is the world's largest orange juice brand.
Yep.
Part of Coca-Cola, and she got this kind of secret opportunity to take a very robust severance package, which was kind of the writing on the wall. But we did the math, and we didn't even know we were pregnant with Jacob yet. It was just before we found out we were pregnant. We were like, man, if you're pregnant, this is going to be fantastic because you get great benefits and all this other stuff. Let's do it before they drop whatever hammer is coming, and people, are not invited to leave on nice terms. They just are invited to leave. And sure enough, that's what happened. She took this great package, and then they very shortly after announced that they were shutting the Houston Minute Maid office, which was the headquarters of Minute Maid since it started, moving everything to Atlanta. And if you wanted to fly yourself to Atlanta and try and interview for your own job, you could, but otherwise,
good corporate stuff.
Yeah, corporate stuff. So it was great. And she loves raising Jacob. It's busy, but if we got, and we occasionally have help from a nanny, but if like we had a full-time nanny, that would eat up a whole salary and someone else is raising your kid. So we love the fact that she's able to raise him, and she has a great relationship with him. And,
and that'll make a difference in those two children's lives, right?
You bet. Yeah, it'll be great. And I am privileged to work out of my home. So I've worked out of my home for 20 something years. And I don't know that I can go back to an office now because, in a moment I'm going to step out of here and have lunch with my family.
See that?
That's pretty nice.
There you go. Yeah, and now the knee, the famous knee, is it still bothering you, or are you able to?
Off and on. So I'm on prescription pain meds. The Advil wasn't doing it anymore.
Okay. So
but, and I still have a 10% disability, which I thought was going to save me an awful lot of my property taxes. In Texas, if you have a 10% disability, you save like $5,000 on your property tax, or so I thought.
Is that right?
They actually just shave $5,000 off the value of your home, which saves you approximately.
Because you give national speeches on taxes, the math on that.
I know, and I got that wrong. I think I save $50 a year.
The math on that doesn't work. You get up front to 7,000 people and say, "Let me tell you something about the 10% disability." Everybody listen up.
But we don't pay state income tax, so maybe that's
Yeah. Okay, but you were able to do a little exercise. What keeps you?
Yeah,
chasing a 5-year-old around.
Well, that's most of the exercise I get. The fact that I have a very large territory, which is a whole Gulf Coast and inland into parts of Missouri and Arkansas and Oklahoma, means that I travel a lot. And so, most of the exercise I get is walking through the airport, which is really, but I walk through a lot of airports, so I get a lot of steps. And then on the weekends with my son, and I do try and work out and have a trainer that's fantastic. And, if I'm running late, I tell him to start without me. That's a dad joke.
And the gyms in the Galleria have that nice cucumber water. I like that.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm able to work out from time to time, but it's not what it should be. Rick Killian, now that he's retired, tells me he's in the best shape of his life because he works out every day. I'm like, dang, that sounds fun.
Well, that's the benefit of retirement, but it goes both ways. You're not. I was just talking to a classmate on an earlier podcast. He said it's weird to not be in charge of anything anymore. So you got that. That's the downside of it. So there's pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
Is there any story we haven't told, or anything you thought would be interesting for classmates that we should bring up?
The military stories were fun. It was great to be in the Army. I do, I got to work for some great folks in a great division. And I remember as I was getting set to leave the division, probably in my last few months, the chief of staff of the Army. Actually, no, it was right as I left was finishing up as an XO and moving up to battalion staff.
Yeah.
And we got to do a live fire exercise for the chief of staff of the Army, just our company, and very supportive. It was a lot of fun, stuff blowing up everywhere and the mortars going off. I'm just an XO, so my job is to sort of run behind the company commander if anything happens to him, which is not going to happen in a good live fire exercise. But if anything happens to him, I'm in charge. But it was really great to hear the chief of staff of the Army after that, and this was, I think, when the 10th Mountain Division got on people's radar, point out to all of the division commanders around the world that if you wanted to see how small unit tactics are done, go to Fort Drum. The 10th Mountain Division does it, which was great. And then the other big charge that I got, at the end of that exercise was our company was involved in external evaluation for 2 new infantry battalions that were doing their exevals at the same time to be, certified as combat ready. And I got to lead the opposing force, which was 30 people. It was me and 30 enlisted guys. I had a few NCOs and I had a bunch of privates, and we were the OPFOR for 1,200 folks. And it was phenomenal. and they were empowered, and I was able to use the commander's intent. And it got to the point where they kind of pulled me aside and said, "You're going to have to be a little less effective because I'm not sure they're getting the the training they're supposed to."
Being the Op 4 as lieutenant was one of the hidden gems, right? Because you could just run wild.
Yeah, all you're really doing is calling fire on people, and
Right?
it's all notional fire. You just
And they were bounded within the strictures of their own command thing and the exercise. And you could just tell like 3 privates, go to the top of that hill, just throw flares.
That's right. It was
you were more like a hooligan just running around creating trouble than anything. But that's great.
exactly right. But it's always nice when you get told, yeah, you got to damp down the.
That's good for you. Good for you. Well, I'm sure if it hadn't been for the knee, you'd have had
if it hadn't been for the knee, that
quite a run. But
would have stopped them cold. 1200 against 30. It was my my gates of fire moment.
That's great.
Moment.
That's great. Dave, so terrific to catch back up and hear your stories. It sounds like you're doing well, and we look forward to connecting more. The reunions are probably a question mark with a young family like yours, but we'd love to see you up there.
It is. Well, if we at some point we'll get up to West Point, and I want my son to see it. Even if he doesn't want to be a soldier, I want him to see what marching looks like. And and I really appreciate what you're doing. All right, thanks, Paul.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Courage Never Quits podcast, where any member of the class of 1986 who is willing to tell their story will be a guest. To get the word out and stay up to date on the latest episodes, hit the like and subscribe button. With over 900 living graduates, we have a lot of stories to tell, and you don't want to miss any of them. We'll see you in the next episode.